an email from the folks at Stone, from Greg and from Mitch, asking if I was willing to participate in a collaboration with them. Mitch, who is the brewmaster for Stone, had told me quite a while ago that they really were hoping to do a collaboration with me, and so it was cool to get the email and see what was going on with it. And then they told me about what was going on. If you don't know how Stone does collaborations, they pick 2 other breweries or principal entities that collaborate and make the beer happen. And so they asked me and then informed me that they were going to work with the Alchemist. And if you know about the Alchemist Brewery is in Waterbury, Vermont. And it basically was completely destroyed during Hurricane Irene. And that part of Vermont is not prepared for things like floodings. And he basically went into his brewery. And I don't know if you've seen the video or not, but it's a really powerful story. You know, he basically, the brewery was in the basement. He looked and he saw water everywhere, and just shut the door and went to the bar and poured himself a beer. But then the sobering part of it is that he could feel the tanks floating and hitting the floor of the ceiling, basically, which was the floor below him, and knew the devastation that was going on, and for the entire community that was there. Fortunately for them as a brewery, they had set up a separate production facility to start canning beer, and so they still make beer and have that ability to do it, but the brew pub that they created was a very, very integral part of the community of Waterbury. There was not a lot of restaurants there, there's not a lot of common spaces, and so it was a big blow to the community as a whole. They asked if I was willing to participate in the project, and that the funds for it would go to a fund that had been set up for the Waterbury community as a whole. So every sip that you take of this beer is actually donating and giving back to that community. So you should feel good about participating in this, all in all. Stone has been a part of the Black IPA CDA revolution since its very earliest inception on the West Coast for sure. And Jonathan, the brewer from the Alchemist, was actually one of the first people to sort of be acknowledged for making really dark, hoppy beers. He worked with Greg Noonan in Vermont, who is very well known within the community of the world and in history for brewing. And really that brewery is sort of considered one of the first places to do it. You know, from my standpoint for the style of beer, in the early 90s, professional brewers were all experimental home brewers that were getting paid, and we were doing all kinds of crazy things, so you can name it what you will, but it kind of traces it back, way back to Vermont for sure. So it was really awesome. John has made probably, he says, over 200 different versions of a black IPA CDA type beer in his career. He's really passionate about it, as well as with Stone. So we got together and decided to make this beer. When we decided to talk about what we wanted to do with it, we decided that we wanted to pull some of the darkness out of it, pull some of the extreme roast flavor out of it. One of my critiques of the style can be that the dark roasted malt can kind of hide or take away some of the bitterness and hoppiness from the beer, which doesn't make it as IPA for me. It's more of a really rich, maybe double pale ale or something, you know. But there's still some really good examples of it, but it's very tricky to do when you have the dark malt. So we used Carafa, German Carafa malt for it, dehusked 3, and pulled a lot of it back though so that we could get this color, this more brown than black color out of it. It's still very dark and opaque, but we'll still allow for the hops to shine through. We also decided to use some different hops that are being used for a lot of the beers. There's a lot of beers that are using some very specific hops, and you see them in a lot of versions of them. And so we wanted to go with something different, and John always likes to use actually hop extract for his upfront bittering for some of that bitterness properties, so we ended up using Super Galenas for bittering up front. So you can thank that for actually making this taste like the 80 IBUs that it is. For the second and third editions, we used Nelson Sauvin and a hop from Steiner called Galaxy, which is kind of a newer hop variety that's out there. And then it was dry hopped with Citra and with Bravo hops in abundance. The beer was meant to have a dry finish and be extremely drinkable for its alcohol content. And is it 7.4? Okay. I just got back from vacation, so I'm still pulling some things back. But 7.4% alcohol and 80 IBUs. I think that it turned out excellent. It was a really fun day of brewing, going down to Stone and getting a chance to hang out on their brew system and to see the wonderful culture and facility they have down there. If you ever have a chance to go visit them, they know how to do it right, and they built a beautiful place. And they're even building their own sort of edge field down there right now with a hotel that's attached. So they have a lot of exciting and fun stuff down there and have a lot of really wonderful beers and actually incredible food. That night there was actually a brewer's dinner in which they did a food pairing between beers from the world and Stone beers versus the cuisine through it, and it was absolutely fantastic event as well. So it's a wonderful day and a wonderful experience to be there. And again, it's also just really beneficial. It really shows how awesome the craft beer community is, and brewers and breweries in general, and that there's a real charitable heart out there that loves to give and do what we can for each other. And it's cool to see that with Stone. It's great to see that the Alchemist could benefit from that, because I know that when I heard about it as a business owner and someone who loves stainless steel and breweries, the thought of what he went through is devastating in my mind. Like, we're very fortunate to live in Oregon where the acts of God are somewhat refined and rare, you know. As long as middle sister doesn't blow anytime soon, we're pretty good. So anyway, thanks again for coming out tonight. I'll be here if you want to ask me more questions about it and any of the fun that was had. And what else would I say? Just for fun, I'll tell you that I'm actually flying next week in support of San Francisco Beer Week. It's kind of a teaser to say this because the beer won't actually show up here because Speakeasy isn't, I don't think, sending draft beer to Oregon right now, but I'm getting a chance to make a beer with Speakeasy and Schmaltz Brewing in support of the San Francisco Beer Week. With Sean Paxton, the homebrewed chef, we're doing a 3-brewery dinner that's a circus theme in San Francisco. And so all 3 breweries are supportive of it with Sean, and Sean suggested that we make a beer like Cracker Jacks, because he wants to make food that's circus-themed gourmet. So he's going to hand-make sausages, and he's looking for,
Corn dogs?
No, well, corn dogs are going to be there, but the whipped sugar stuff. Cotton candy, thank you. He's looking for a cotton candy maker to make hop cotton candy for it, and he's going totally nuts. But he asked us to make a beer like Cracker Jacks, and so we're going to make a beer that has kind of like lots of honey malt and biscuit malt, and things are sort of richer on that side. We're putting a little chocolate rye in it to give it color and some other nuttiness. We're currently looking for torrefied corn in bulk. The co-op in San Francisco, we thought we were going to be able to use Rainbow, only has small portions, and so we're trying to source it from Colorado in time for the brew day, but we want to actually add puffed corn to the mash, and we're going to then take a bunch of roasted but unsalted peanuts and put it on the beer for a week and a half and dry nut it. Got to say it! So we're going to dry nut the beer, and then it's going to be available not just for this awesome three-ring circus style dinner, which is going to have performers and entertainers in the way that you might imagine, but also be served throughout San Francisco Beer Week. So the collaboration spirit is still alive and going well. So thanks to everyone for coming out tonight. Yeah.